wondered if the president was even consulted about his legally binding signature being signed onto documents. And so I think it's a question that everybody in this room should be looking into, because certainly that would propose perhaps criminal or illegal behavior if staff members were signing the President of the United States autograph.
Biden gave multiple interviews before he issued the pardons, giving his rationale, saying that he might be doing this because he's worried about what Trump will do during his term. The idea that this was signed behind Biden's back is complete BS. Watch Caroline Leavitt get fact-checked on this very issue.
Without his consent. Is on the record talking about issuing preemptive pardons to these people.
Yeah. But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the Biden White House.
Is there any evidence on that he wasn't aware of it?
You're a reporter. You should find out. Okay, Sean.
Caroline Leavitt is so slippery. The burden of proof falls on the person making the claim. If you're making an extraordinary claim, you need to have the proof. The onus falls on you to present the evidence. You can't flip it back around on Caitlin Collins. And you know, Caitlin Collins makes a great point. She says Biden is on the record saying that he was going to do these pardons, and on the record after saying that he just did them. The idea that Biden had no clue or that this was done behind Biden's back is preposterous. And keep in mind, the Trump White House uses auto pens as well. The DOJ has said multiple times that auto pens carry full legal weight. So Caitlin Collins just kind of rolled Caroline Leavitt. Watch this clip of Caroline trying to weave her way around a question regarding Putin and Russia. And you know, I feel like it's a requirement to be, if you want to be a press secretary, to be really good with words, really quick on your feet, and kind of able to slip out of situations when someone's trying to catch you in a gotcha. But Caroline Leavitt takes that sliminess to a new level. She's like a borderline propagandist. I've never seen a press secretary this shameless.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions. First, will President Trump put sanctions on Russia if the talks on Tuesday don't go as hoped? And secondly, have any illegal immigrants self-deported through CBP home yet?
To your first question, it's something the president has floated, and certainly he's willing to do if necessary. I don't have anything to read out, and I would never get ahead of the president on such a serious decision. It
just feels like Trump has not used any of the leverage the U.S. has against Russia. In fact, Trump has only lost both the U.S. and Ukraine leverage by, number one, stopping intel sharing with Ukraine. Number two, stopping the gathering of data against Russia. Also, Trump has eased some sanctions on Russia. He's actually only openly floated the idea of lifting sanctions on Russia. It feels like Russia just gets rewarded for coming to the table. Meanwhile, Ukraine gets beaten down for being good faith, you know? Here is Caroline Leavitt claiming that now France, the French people, should be grateful for the U.S. and that the Statue of Liberty is ours to keep.
Something different. There is now a member of the European Parliament from France who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
Okay, so Tim Miller says, our very bold policy of demanding allies say thank you to us continues. Unclear if the American people have any additional thank yous to show for it. And listen, the idea that America needs to return the Statue of Liberty, I think that's a dumb idea. It's probably not something that should happen. It seems like something someone just threw out there. But also, the idea that the French people need to be saying thank you, or any country needs to be saying thank you when the U.S. has been a huge asshole. The messaging of the Trump administration is very, very terrible when it comes to foreign policy. Here's Caroline Leavitt getting asked about Trump criticizing judges. This is a good question. Take a listen.
Hey, so on Friday, the president suggested at length that it should be illegal to criticize judges, but he has repeatedly criticized judges who rule against him, and Elon Musk is calling for impeachment of judges who have opposed the administration. So how are those two things not in conflict?
I have not heard the president talk about impeaching judges. I know you
I was about to say, let's see how she weaves out of that, and she just weaved out of it in the craziest way possible. Number one, it was Elon who talked about impeaching judges, so that might have been a Freudian slip on her end when she calls Elon the president. Listen again.
To rule against him, and Elon Musk is calling for impeachment of judges who have opposed the administration. So how are those two things not in conflict?
I have not heard the president talk about impeaching judges. I know you mentioned Mr. Musk's tweet, but I have not heard the president of the United States ask that. Mary.
just weaves out of it in the slipperiest way possible. Caitlin Collins then continued to double down on her questions. Take a listen.
You keep talking about the judge's written order, which hit the docket Saturday night at about 7:26 p.m., but he issued a verbal order before that at about 6:45 and 6:48 p.m. based on the court hearing, a verbal order from the bench. Does the White House feel the need to comply with a verbal order from this judge?
Again,
Caitlin Collins is asking about the current battle with the White House and the courts over deportations. While there was a plane in the air, a court issued a verbal ruling saying, hey, this is not illegal. They put a temporary restraining order on it, but it seems like the Trump admin just completely refused to comply. Let's take a listen.
Does the White House feel the need to comply with a verbal order from this judge?
Again, as I said, all of the planes subject to the written order of this judge departed U.S. soil, U.S. territory before the judge's written order.
But what about the verbal order, which of course carries the same legal weight as a written order, and said for the planes to turn around if they were
Well,
in the air?
there's actually questions about whether a verbal order carries the same weight as a legal order, as a written order, and our lawyers are determined to ask and answer those questions in court. Sean.
Hey, so on Friday,
Keep in mind, that is pure political doublespeak. The Trump admin keeps doing this slimy thing where they say something, but then they do something entirely different. It's actually screwed them over in court several times and forced the judge to place a temporary restraining order after they said something, then did something entirely different behind the scenes. So even though they're saying, oh, of course we'll follow all the court orders, that's probably what their lawyers are instructing them to say. Meanwhile, they're not following any orders. They're actually challenging it all the way up to the Supreme Court. Take a listen to them asking about Tom Homan openly talking about violating court orders.
This president.
And just to follow up really quickly on just Homan's comments from earlier, a few weeks ago in the Oval Office, the president said he will always abide by the courts. We heard what Tom Homan said earlier today. So I'm only asking just to be clear for the American people. It is the administration's belief that that you feel like you were bound to comply by the judge's orders?
We are complying with the judge's orders.
Question on the storm.
Sure.
What did I just say? They say something, then they do something different, because we have this article from 2 hours ago. Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, said, quote, I don't care what the judges think. President Trump's border czar on Monday doubled down on the decision to defy a court order that barred the deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members. And again, these people didn't even get due process. I guarantee everybody watching this video, including me, we are okay with gang members, people who are actively committing crimes and making our country worse, being deported if they're here illegally. If you're here illegally and you're like creating a gang in certain American cities, yeah, sure, get them out of there, but after due process and in ways that the courts can actually agree with. Why it matters. The White House's decision to disregard a federal judge's order has set up a legal battle that could make its way to the Supreme Court and define the limits of Trump's deportation powers. And broadly, it represents this clash between the executive and the judicial branch that Trump has just been working towards since day one of his presidency. They've been working towards it. I guess I want to end this with Fox News being forced to cut away from the press conference after the audio completely messed up. And this doesn't really have any political connotations, but I think it's just a microcosm of how the second Trump term is going. Take a listen.
Been lost, and many communities have been totally destroyed. The president has been actively monitoring the situation, and the Trump administration is engaged with governors and
leading in. All right, so we're having some clearly technical problems here. We're doubling up.
Average day in the Trump administration. More than technical problems, buddy. I'll leave it at that. Drop a like, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.